Alrighty, guys, welcome back to another episode on the Dynamic Lifestyle Podcast. So we have a special episode here. We have another duo in the house. How are you guys doing today? We have Sophie and Adi Jaff here.
Jaffe.
Yeah.
We're good. It's fun to do an episode with another duo. Although you guys are not married, so it's a little different. It's a different setup. But yeah, it's fun.
Yeah.
We're great. We're great.
Awesome. Technically, we kind of like are married.
Feels like it sometimes.
We're twins.
Yeah.
We do everything together. People just don't know that. We try to keep it a secret.
Yeah.
Well, it's actually I think it is amazing. I mean, we know some sets of twins, and it's not always the easiest thing to have working relationships where you have to see each other on a regular basis. Depends on kind of the family you grew up in and what that brings up for you. So, I mean, obviously we met. You two were together at the event where we met. That's kind of how we first met through Chris, and then and I see you guys out there doing your thing all the time together. So that's awesome, and congratulations for be able to keep that going, because it's not that easy.
It's not, no. And that's why I want to talk about like relationships today. It's going to be a great conversation, because whether it's just like in the context of, just with a significant other, a family member, or just, a business partner, it is a relationship at the end of the day. And it's very tough, like you said, to maintain that, to, make that relationship grow. And because we have our struggles too, where we just, always bicker and fight. But then at the end of the day, we just kind of make up.
Yeah, exactly.
Different when you're blood, right?
Oh, yeah.
Because you're in it forever.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But again, thank you guys for, coming down here. I know that you guys have a very busy schedule. I respect everyone's time. I love everything that you guys are doing. So that's why I'm very excited to have you guys on. And I know you guys are going to share a lot of wisdom, and most importantly, a lot of good takeaways for the listeners. So again, thank you for just, fitting us into your schedule.
Of course.
Yeah, absolutely. We're always happy to share the message.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
I think for us, we... it's always evolving, right? Like it's dynamic.
Yeah.
And I think because we've known each other so long, we've been through so many iterations in our friendship and in our relationship. Like I was 20 years old when we met. I'm 34 now. We have 3 kids. We've been married for 9 years. It's been a ride. And through all the ups and downs, that's just normal life.
Yeah.
But it's how we show up to the ups and downs and how we show up to each other that has changed. And I think in terms of like getting right to the point and right to the heart of what it is that we love to share is just how to get through these points of conflict more maturely, quicker, with more respect. And for us, what has been a really big healer, we've been through lots of traumas, lots of there's been some cheating, there's been, betrayal, there's been also, you've known someone for 14 years. Like the odds are some crazy, gnarly shit's going to happen, right? Yeah. And for us, what's really healed us is radical transparency, being brutally honest with each other, and that being a practice for good or bad. Like no matter what, to share our lives and our experiences with each other and our perspectives so that when those things happen, we can be there for each other and know how to properly handle them.
Right.
Yeah. And is that where you guys came up with your business? Is it Ignited?
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha. So I want to know a little bit more how you guys came up with that, like the story and what that even consists of.
Sure. Ignited came out of me losing my last business, really. I mean, Ignited was, I ran a rehab with a partner and it fell apart. It did really well for like 2.5 years. And then there was a lot I didn't know and wasn't prepared for. It was the first really big, successful business I ran. And so it crumbled when I couldn't do what it needed to do. And my partner got sick. And there were all these things that fell and just...
A lot of relationships things too. Like there were a lot of... Adi didn't know how to properly run a company and manage other employees. Like he was never taught. He's a psychologist. He didn't want to do all of that and manage all of that. It fell into his lap and he was trying to piece it all together. But that doesn't mean that you are going to be great at managing human beings. Like that takes a skill, you know?
And so that fell apart. It was kind of like my identity. I mean, it was hard to let that thing go. But when I let it go was the first time, because it was right around before the summer. And it was the first time in probably before graduate school, so since 2003, so, a good 14 years, where I had some time to just sit down and figure out what I wanted to do. And I used those 3 months. I read books. I looked online. I was kind of trying to say to myself, what is my next thing? And I knew I still wanted to help people. That's what I loved about running a rehab, is I wanted to be able to help people, but I wanted to make it bigger and more impactful. And I had no idea what that meant. And so that's when I started looking at the whole online world. And I'd had ideas about doing help online. I just didn't know what that would look like. Sophie and I have gone through our struggles. And so one of the first things Ignited created was the podcast.
Well, first it was the women's retreat. That's where it started.
Yeah. So the name came from this retreat that Sophie and a good friend of hers did to help women ignite their passion.
Gotcha.
And so I came up with the name then for the retreat. But I remember right away I told Sophie, I'm like, this Ignited thing can go a lot farther than Ignited Women. It's like Ignited Relationships, Ignited Men, Ignited Nutrition, Ignited
Recovery.
Because the idea was around the passion, right? Igniting passion in people. And it's funny because I thought everybody would be able to read IGNTD. Most people are like, what's this IGNTD thing you're doing? I'm like, damn it. But the funny thing about it now is it's almost like a little code word. Once you know what it is, you're part of our club.
Yeah.
And so I did, they did their retreat. We started the podcast.
We did a couples retreat, Ignited Couples.
And then I also started an Ignited Recovery around addiction course that I did online. And I was kind of just experimenting with how can we reach people and help them without ever meeting them, if possible, right? Like in the pure sense of the word, getting our messaging out and everything that we've been through. And so Ignited, as of this moment, and it'll keep growing this way, is a platform more than anything else. It's a platform for self-help and for change. And so right now we have a relationship course. We have a recovery and addiction and compulsive habits course. We have we have a podcast around relationships, which we do, Ignited Relationships. And then we have an Ignited Recovery course around, again, those habits and mental health. And the idea is to start bringing more and more people who are really good at what they do, and that is helping people break through mindset problems, difficulties, things like grief, difficult pregnancies, everything. I want to make Ignited a thing where if you're struggling and you're in our world, we have an answer for you. And if we don't have it, let us know that you're struggling with it, and we will find the right person
Bring in
to
the
teach you what it
experts.
is.
Gotcha.
So, almost, I came up with this name a little while ago, but in the end, I want to almost have like an Ignited University where any self-help related thing you need in life, we've got for you. And what was beautiful about it is it allows us to have passion underneath the work that we do, under the business, which for me is so important in everything that I do, because it allows me to stay motivated, to wake up in the morning when it's one of those tough days where you don't really want to be doing what you have to do that day, but then you get one of those emails from a person you've helped or a couple we've helped, and they tell you you've changed your life, and you go, all right, screw it, I got to go back to work.
That's why I'm doing this.
Yeah.
Right. So where did this
awesome.
this purpose and vision kind of like start with you guys wanting to like be, self-help and helping people out, because you guys are doing amazing stuff.
I think both of us it's in our nature. Like we talk about dharma, like it's part of our dharma. Our life's purpose is to help people. We both, since we were young, were those humans. And then we both went to school for psychology to help others, and we just took different routes from that. Instead of just going like the typical way, Adi had his own struggles with addiction, so he went back to school to get his PhD in neuroscience to help people that are struggling with addiction in different, unique ways than what's available right now. And then I just loved working with people and food, and saw, I had like my own struggles with food in my early 20s, like living in LA, who doesn't?
Right.
And I know that I have a gift in making people feel good in a real, authentic way, and helping them find that truth within them and get through the hard stuff, but without fear, like with self-love. And so both of us work in our different angles and work really well together. And after we went through our cheating incidents and issues surrounding that, I wrote a couple public articles from Mind Body Green and Women's Health and a few other big publications, and shared my experience as like, look, my husband cheated on me. We had a really hard time, call it a sex addict, call it whatever you want to call it, once a cheater, always a cheater. But regardless of however you label it, we went through this thing and I'm still here. And here's what I have to share with you. You don't have to leave the person you love if they're willing to do the work. And here's the work we did. So that's where it started. And I still get multiple emails a day about these articles that I wrote. Like, are you this Sophie Jaffe? Like through Facebook Messenger, like the ones where like they're hidden in multiple layers I'm like, whoa, where's this coming from? But just random people all throughout the world that we're helping just by telling our story. So then we were like, oh, we're helping all these people. I don't have time to sit and do one-on-ones with all these beautiful humans that are struggling. How do we get this messaging out there?
So then we reach more people.
Exactly.
Exactly.
And that's where the podcast was born.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And I appreciate you just even being vulnerable about that, opening up, saying, you guys had your issues with infidelity. So that's literally where I want to pivot to is today, 2018, this crazy, noisy world, social media too. Let's enter social media. What do you think are the biggest issues, related to relationships in general? Do you think the infidelity, I mean, I know infidelity is a huge one, but I'd like to just know, what do you guys think?
Well, so I think even if we step away from infidelity as the only marker of relationship issues, what we found with a lot of the people that we talk to is people don't know how to be intimate or communicate. And so that ends up manifesting in a million different ways, right? Like guys might go to porn because either they're not getting what they want in their relationship, or they don't even know how to enter into a relationship because women scare them and they don't want to be rejected and they don't know how to talk and be real. Yeah. And so I know for myself, it wasn't like that by the time I met Sophie, or actually I found out it was a little more of that than I expected maybe. But by the time I met Sophie, I was 28, 29. I'd come into myself a little bit. But earlier on in life, I felt like I had to pretend all the time to be doing better than I was. I struggle with depression. I struggle with a lot of other kind of things of that nature. And I would just have to always pretend like things are going well, because that's the world I felt like I was living in. And social media has made that worse because we see tidbits of everybody's life. Like I don't even see you guys all the time. I just see, 35 seconds from your day.
Out of 24 hours, you see someone's 1 minute split up throughout the day.
It's a
and
huge highlight reel.
Yeah.
So the mistake is we feel like that's what we have to do in life with everybody. And it was bad before, it's worse now. And what I say a lot is that we've been sold this fake promise, which is if you get your hair cut a certain way, look a certain way, wear the right kind of clothes and shoes, talk a certain way, post pictures a specific way, people will love you and you'll be appreciated and you'll find everything you want in life. So you have to pretend to be this other person and then you get what you need. In reality, that is the exact opposite formula of success, right? Because while there are people who reach those levels, the vast majority of them, it's my core belief, who are happy doing it, because there are people doing it, pretending, making a lot of money and doing really, really well, but being miserable. The people who are happy doing it, they're actually still just being themselves. It just so happens that they are currently conceived to be good looking, they're good actors, whatever the thing is. Everybody, all of us trying to measure up to that just makes us not be us anymore and try to be like them. Like, I can't be Will Smith. Right, I'm not Will Smith. I'm a little taller than him, as you can say while I'm sitting here. But like, there are a million ways that I'm not him. Right, me trying to be Will Smith is going to cause me to be miserable, and it's going to do nothing to his life. And so, what I tell all the people that we work with is, how do you find your authenticity? And then, so that's the first piece, is you have to figure out what that is, because so much of us, we've been pretending for so long, we forgot what that even is.
I feel like almost any issue that people come to us with, whether it be coupleships or work on their own, the answer is always start with the work within.
Always.
You need to start with you.
Yeah.
If you're not whole and you're not doing the work and you don't know what your dharma is, which is also means like your path, or what's your purpose? Why are you here? What drives you? What makes you feel good? What makes you feel bad? If you don't know how to answer these questions, if you can't sit with a journal because it makes you feel uncomfortable, or you can't sit in meditation for 30 seconds because then you hear your own thoughts and have to... That's a problem.
Yep.
And it's fixable. That's the beautiful thing. It's not like, oh, I'm just damaged. Like, no, we all have this. And this is where we start.
Yep.
Always. Is like the core issues within you.
And once you find out that stuff, because first you got to dig.
Yeah.
And that's stuff that happened when you were younger and things your parents brought into the equation.
Story.
And past stories
trauma.
and experiences you've had, all that stuff.
So is that the actionable steps somebody should take, like to discover like authenticity within themselves? Is like go back in time, like
Yeah, and I think
trauma
I don't,
or something like that.
Yeah, I don't think necessarily go back in time as in go back and relive those experiences. Although, so in the book I wrote, The Abstinence Myth, it's around addiction, but I think the same principles work for a lot of these things we talk about. The first one is what I call honest exploration. Figure out how you got here and where exactly you're at. Right. The analogy I use with the people I work with, it's like a road trip. Like if you want to go from here to some amazing destination, you want to go on vacation, there are 3 pieces of information you need to know. Where are you right now? Where you're trying to go, but that's not enough because you need to figure out the route along the way.
Right.
Because I can get from here to Cancun, by car, but that looks completely different than getting there by airplane, which looks completely different than walking or riding a bike, right? Like, because on a car I can go up hills that I wouldn't be able. So you need to understand where you are right now, where you're going, and what route you want to take there. And so we got to start with where you are, because you can have a purpose, you can have a mission, but if you don't know where you're starting from, knowing your destination doesn't help, because it doesn't give you any direction. And so that's the first piece. And then what I find for a lot of people that I work with, that we work with, is when you really look in deep, there's a lot of stuff you don't like.
Yeah.
And that's why you've been running. And so after, unfortunately, unlike a car ride, because most of the time you're okay with your location physically, but when we figure out our location psychologically and emotionally, there's a next step, which I call acceptance, radical acceptance. And that's when Sophie and I talk about, I don't care what trauma you've been, and I've seen it all, right? Raped at 3 or 4 years old, abandoned, not adopted until you were 18, and then tossed out on the street and being homeless. I've seen everything. You still have to accept it. It doesn't matter how crazy, bad, negative, insane, painful it's been. You have done your best until this moment. While you're listening to this in this second, you've done your absolute best to get here. Stop blaming yourself and beating yourself up for it. Just be okay with it. And once you sit in that, we can start looking for solutions. But if you're gonna try to create success on the back of trauma, but pretend like the trauma didn't exist, I don't think you're going to make it.
Yeah.
Because you will still be trying to overcompensate for that past.
Yeah.
And so that's the next step. And one of the ways that Sophie and I have found the ability to be acceptant, to be in acceptance, is to find somebody who supports you. I have Sophie for this. I found out since then I have a lot of other people, but it started with Sophie. And where if I am transparent and I'm really, really, really honest about what's going on inside, she will accept me, and then I will start feeling better about myself, because somebody else has shown me that I'm okay even when I'm my true self.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's
powerful.
spot on, because like we lost our father at 17 years old and we just went through hell. That's what we call it, for 6 full years. And the only way that we kind of dealt with it was putting our head down and just building our business, just grinding, hustling like that. That's how we dealt with it. We didn't know any other way.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like what you guys said, is we didn't deal with it.
We didn't process it.
Yeah, we didn't process it. We didn't sit in it, And then it wasn't until we hired like a life coach and then did some personal growth work that we finally accepted it and just let it go. And ever since then, it's been beautiful.
You got to sit in the uncomfortable to get through it.
Absolutely. And I felt like we masked our pain. We say this all the time, that, we sit there and grind and we built our business, the last 10 years, but it was just through masking the pain, because we didn't know what else to do. It was just one goal after another and just keep pushing. And
distraction.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Just distracting that grief and pain.
Yeah.
Yeah. And look, if you do it around something useful and something that people appreciate, like working out and starting a business, unfortunately everybody applauds you along the way.
Of course. Yeah.
So it actually looks good, but you're still struggling. You're still suffering. You still wake up in the morning hating your life, but it looks so good from the outside that then it's hard. I mean, I've worked with artists. I've worked with people who are really successful. And how do you stop when you're on a meteoric rise, like you're a superstar? How do you stop and say to people, I got to put a pause, just got to pause this, because there's work I've got to do about myself. It's hard. It's really, really difficult.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I want to circle back like what you talked about with like transparency, right? That's kind of like being just brutally honest. Like that's what needs to be done with relationships. So how would you go about like telling somebody to start with like that transparency and being brutally honest? Because that probably scares the shit out of people.
It's
What I
scary.
mean, with relationships.
No,
Sophie's got some stories about that.
How would you like really go about like, just advocating that and getting started, like the first step?
I'd say trust is the first step. Make sure you're going through this with someone that you trust and that you feel safe, because it rocks you. Like when you first get some of this, especially if you've been through a trauma with this person, but even if you haven't, it's still jarring, because most people don't communicate like this. They tell what they want to tell. They wear their masks. It takes years sometimes to really see who it is you're even dating or with, because we're all putting on all of these costumes.
And honesty and transparency are different.
Yeah. Right.
You want to talk about the difference?
Yeah. I mean,
I want to know the difference.
Yeah, there's being honest, which is telling the truth.
Like, Sophie, what did you do today? And Sophie tells me the truth.
I
That's
worked.
honesty.
I worked. That's
Yeah.
truth. That's one part of the truth. But being transparent is sharing all the details, the good, the bad, the thoughts, the struggles, everything, and being vulnerable. Part of it is being really vulnerable. And then being able to receive it, and there not being a judgment attached to it. So maybe when I'm sharing my day, what I did today, there's all the ups and downs, and I had this thought about this person and it made me feel this, and then I felt triggered, and then I remembered that thing when you cheated on me with that girl, and then I had a bad dream, and then I had the baby and I struggled with the baby and I wanted to throw her against the wall because I felt like, instead of like, yeah, I had a great day with baby. Well, no, I actually wanted to die at certain points because she wouldn't stop crying.
Yeah.
And kind of going there, not just in like these more relationship, you think that it has to do with the relationship. Like, no, just lay it all out there because that is allowing you to connect to your partner in a real way and connect to yourself. When you say things out loud, it takes away the power. If I hold that in, that like I wanted to throw my baby against the wall, over time that will wear on me to like, now I have this dirty secret that like when she screams like that, it makes me want to escape or whatever it is. And then you just build it and build it and build it and build it. And then it becomes so much worse than just sharing it with someone. It totally desensitizes it. And then also you become closer with your partner, and then it becomes a practice. So the first lots of times it's uncomfortable. Receiving it is uncomfortable. If Adie's sharing me all the intimate things of him, then he's like, oh, I met this girl at this coffee shop and she was flirting with me. And then I start to get triggered. Well, he's telling me now because he loves me and respects me. He doesn't want to be with that girl. He wants to be with me. We've already done all that work. So over time, it becomes less scary, and so much so that I crave that intimacy now. Like if we haven't had a good check-in in a while, it makes me feel uncomfortable, like less connected to my partner and to myself, because then I'm just going through my life and not really connecting to it.
Yeah. Whew. Powerful. I love that. And I know, thank you for like breaking that down. Just because that just hit me right now too, because I'm guilty of that, with my girlfriend, where she's always asked me, well, how was your day today? Like, tell me some details. And I'm just like, damn, I'm like, just like, I can't like be like transparent like that.
It's hard.
I just
it's
say,
a skill set.
I just say, hey, it's the same old thing, like nothing exciting.
But it's not.
Yeah. And it's
not. It's nuanced. And
exactly.
We have a feelings wheel on our chart, on our refrigerator door. And honestly, it's for us too. It's not just for our kids. Like we don't have that language.
Yeah.
How was school today? Good. How was work today? Fine.
Yeah.
Same old.
Yeah.
Like, was it the same old? Because I'm pretty sure it was a whole different 24 hours of your day. Like, tell me how it was different.
Yeah. Every day you have a different emotion. You're going through something, right? So it's like, just tell. And like you said, it's a skill. Like
it's a skill. You have to build it. So over time, it becomes so much easier. It's hard in the beginning, but it's so rewarding because you get to really feel that enriching relationship with yourself and with somebody else.
Yeah. Now, do you guys recommend like couples like therapy, even though somebody's not dealing with any issues or anything like that? Like literally just to enhance it and have like an outside eye?
Before you're married, it should be required.
Okay.
Just like parenting classes should be required.
Yeah.
It's a good question. I mean, I think the unfortunate reality of the way, especially around mental health, but we do the same thing with physical health in this country especially, is we don't deal with problems until they're bursting at the seams, right? So like we were driving over here. We told you about this, right? Sophie's back hatch hasn't really been closing. I walk into the car. I'm like, babe, the back of your car isn't closing. She's like, oh, it's been like that for a while. I go, what do you mean it's been like that for a while? Like, why don't you go fix it? It's not that important.
Not exactly like that, but yes.
Well, apparently it got worse today.
Yeah.
But when it got worse, it was beeping the entire way we were driving over here. Well, guess what? If you don't take care of what you need to take care of in life now, it's going to get worse.
Yeah.
So if you have some dissatisfaction, Eric, in life, and like there's things that are happening on a day-to-day basis, and they're kind of building up resentment, but you don't really feel like sharing them because they either feel stupid, or maybe it doesn't make you feel like as successful a man as you want to look like, or maybe you just don't want to hear what your girlfriend has to say in terms of advice on how to fix it, and you don't share it, it just builds up. And it builds up, and it builds up, and it builds up. And one day, it's a really frustrating day at work, and your girlfriend says, how's work? And you blow up. And she's like, what the? I just asked you. I've been asking you what it's like at work for weeks or a year, and you haven't said anything. All of a sudden now you're like blowing up at me. We don't share because of all the stories we have in our heads about what it means to be vulnerable.
Right.
If I tell somebody the real truth about who I am and what I'm experiencing, they're going to see me as less than. They're going to not want to be with me anymore. All that stuff comes up. Yeah. But those are stories, and they're stories that exist based on things that happened in the past. Like maybe your dad or your mom or something early on in life kind of said like, don't do this instead. And they showed you how to behave in the world, but that might not be the way that works for you currently. And so you need to develop a model. And what Sophie and I found, and by the way, not all therapists agree with us. Some people say that there's things you shouldn't share with your partner. I don't want to be with a partner who wouldn't accept me. She doesn't need to agree with me on everything. Let's be clear. She just needs to accept me and choose to be with me, even though all my craziness is going on in my head.
I agree.
Absolutely.
I agree.
And we've got stories, of people, this isn't easy, and it's taken us, we're now 9 years into this process, but it was painful at first, because at first you share the slightly dirty stuff, the stuff that makes you feel a little weird, and you still save the really hardcore stuff. And then you go, okay, well, that was safe, and you try to share a little bit more. And at every one of those levels, your partner goes, wait, what? That's been there? Why haven't you talked to me about that?
Yeah.
And you go, well, because I haven't felt safe. I felt scared. And you go through discovering that we're all okay with this. And we've definitely gone through that. We went through a couple of years where, every time I would discover a new layer to share, and every time Sophie would discover a new layer to share, things that made her unhappy with me or things she wanted to change, it caused friction. But then we would solve that friction, and then it'd be gone.
And we'd be closer for it.
Yeah. Because you guys communicated.
Yeah, you can actually... I look forward sometimes to our fights, not for it and the experience, but for what comes afterwards.
Yeah, we just had one like a week and a half ago or something.
And it made us closer. It made us get through the stuff, plus made us closer and appreciate each other more.
Yeah. I think we get afraid of conflict, and so we avoid it at all costs. And then you end up living with people that you don't want to live with, having conversations you don't want to have, working in a job you don't want to work. And how many people listening right now are working in an office that they hate, but they just haven't spoken up, not to their partner, not to their friends, not to their boss, because they assume this is what I have to live with.
Yeah. And ultimately, I mean, that's like the unhealthiest thing ever, right? Just keep all those emotions bottled in. I mean, it's like, there goes your self-worth. There goes like you every day waking up thinking, man, I don't have any value to offer people. It's like same old shit every day. Then it impacts their marriage, their kids' relationships. And it's a vicious cycle.
And their health.
Yeah.
Cancer, cardiovascular disease,
Man.
type 2 diabetes. These things are directly linked to stress.
Yeah.
And if you look at the research on these things, like even smoking, everybody keeps thinking that smoking is the thing that causes lung cancer. No. When you look at the real research, genetics, smoking, and stress, if all three of them are together, like if you have genetics of lung cancer in your life and you smoke and you live a chronically stressful life, you have a 25-time increased chance of getting lung cancer.
Yeah.
You take any one of those three, and I mean by that only the stress, it goes down to about, I think, 10 times. So you cut by half the chance of getting lung cancer by just eliminating the stress, even if you keep smoking and you have genetic markers. You take away one of those, and now all of a sudden you have a 5-time marked risk. So even if you're a daily smoker, your chance of getting cancer, if you're not living a stressful life, etc., is not as incredibly high as once you add these risk factors. But we take those for granted. We live in a country that like celebrates stress.
Right.
Don't go to sleep. Keep working through the weekend. Don't take vacations. Make a bunch of money. Travel all the time. Don't see your family. That's a thumbs up sign, and it kills you.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know if this is the right question to ask, but like, how do we prevent like all this from just like becoming this like snowball effect and disaster? Like, where does it start? Does it start like with like, being parents? Does it start in the school system? Like, how do we prevent like this from like happening from people just going on,
How do we prevent...
Like just all of like just the stress, just the not being transparent, the not being vulnerable, all that stuff.
For us, it's starting now as parents, but we had it before. We had it after our biggest trauma and like betrayals when it started. I think ideally it starts before there's something big. So it starts when you start having relationships, and that's carried down from your parents. So if our generation is going to start to create this. For our children, this is just the way you act. Now in my relationships with my friends, this is the way I'm radically transparent with them. They know it all. And if they can't hang, then they're out, and if they can't share and be radically transparent with me, I feel not as close to them. Mm-hmm. So even if I'm giving all of this radical transparency and telling my truth and sharing it all, if they're not reciprocating and doing the same, I feel then more vulnerable and like it's kind of like off balance. So I think it comes to having the bravery to just start. You can start at any time. You can start right now with your partner. Like, look, I listened to this podcast. It's all about radical transparency. I'd love to listen to it together. Or you listen to it on your own and then let's talk about it.
Yeah.
Start having the conversations and then figure out your path to get there. Nothing's perfect. What worked for us in the particular order in which we did it, whether it be therapy or seeing a shaman or a healer or, all these things that you can do to heal. It isn't a perfect prescription. The point is, hey, this resonates. This one thing resonates. I'd like to give it a try.
Yeah.
And then just jump in and do your best and ask questions and communicate with your partner. And
I think
Yeah, I
I'm
like
lucky
that.
to have Sophie as a partner because Sophie's always challenged me. Like when we were we married? I think we were already married, and I was in that rat race, right? Like I think I had 5 jobs. I mean, if you include seeing clients on the side myself, I think I had 5 jobs. I was teaching in 2 universities. I was a postdoc still at UCLA. I was working in 1 treatment center, and I saw a few clients on the side. I was working like 75, 80-hour weeks. The thing that you're kind of told, like, if I listen to Gary Vee, and I love Gary Vee, by the way, but like if I listen to Gary Vee, that's what I'm supposed to do, right? So Sophie and I would walk around the neighborhood, and I'm not going to say she was gentle about this, but she was persistent about it for sure. Like, what are you doing? Like, you're not happy right now. And it took a lot for me to break through and recognize this anxiety is not healthy. This is not good for me. And so I started letting it go slowly. And the reason I'm taking you through this story is hearing these concepts and letting them sink in is one thing. Starting to apply them in your life is a different thing. And you can start anywhere. I would actually start with the biggest point of pain right now. Whatever is happening in your life right now that is making you the most miserable. If you go to ignited.com, by the way, and you opt in, we send you my wheel of life. So there's this wheel of life that goes around online. It's got 8 slices, different areas of your life, and you measure how well you're doing in each one of them. I added a couple of slices, and you can get that exercise for free right now just for going online. And I'll give you guys the link too. And see how you're doing. Measure how you're doing, and then put some thought into, I tell people, pick the 2 to 3 categories that you're most unhappy with. Look at what's causing that discomfort there. And I would recommend go after that first, because that's going to give you the biggest bang for your buck. So if you're in a career where you're unhappy, or you're in a relationship that you're not happy in, start owning your right to be happy there. Now, by the way, that doesn't mean you have to leave either of those. You would be amazed what would happen if you go up to your boss over the next couple of weeks, once you understand what it is that really makes you uncomfortable, and have a conversation. Say, I don't want to lose this job. I love this job, but there are some things about this that really are hurting my life.
Yeah.
And is there a way to fix it? And I don't know the stats on it, because we haven't run the stats on something like this, but more times than you would expect, there's going to be a solution you haven't thought of.
And that's radical transparency at work. And then once you get some feedback from that and you feel like you can trust, it's very similar to intuition. You have to practice it to hone in and to sharpen it. You can't have intuition if you don't use it. You can't practice radical transparency unless you practice it. Yeah. So get out there, just try it, and it can be in like that, like one specific area of your life. Maybe you're not ready to do it with your partner yet, but just try it on.
Yeah, I love that. And then I want to just circle back to one point you made. It just caught my attention. You said challenging each other, right, in a relationship. And this is something that I struggled with 8 years ago with my past relationship. And this is when I first started getting into entrepreneurism, building our business. I felt like, I wanted to constantly challenge myself. I want to build this empire, but my significant other was not challenging me in any way. She didn't want to grow, at the speed that I wanted to grow. So I know there's ways I could have handled it now that I'm older and wiser and more experienced, but what would you say to like somebody that's going through that right now where they're not being challenged in their relationship by one or the other?
So, and I'm sure you guys have had conversations about motivation and things like that, right?
Absolutely.
So what I think is really useful for a lot of people is to start using more I language. A lot of times we'll walk up to somebody and be pretty comfortable in saying, you do this and it pisses me off, or you don't, or you have to. I don't know about you, but when somebody starts a conversation with me that way, I have got my defenses up.
Oh, yeah.
I don't even care what it is you say after those words. I'm already figuring out how to get you back and bury you, either by leaving, so I never have to see you again, or by demolishing whatever relationship we have. And so I'm a huge fan of starting with I. Like, I get really anxious watching you with all this potential and all this stuff and feeling like there's so much more that I want for you. And owning all of it, like just, it has nothing to do with what you're doing. It's the way that I feel. Because now you're engaging the person in a conversation in terms of how is this impacting both of you and the relationship instead of attacking. So that's one thing that I think is big. But also, I deal with this so much with people where they are so fearful of having the difficult conversation that they don't have it. And then they live for years with misery. I got this one guy just literally a couple of weeks ago on our weekly chat. He said he's thinking of leaving his wife because she's always angry towards him. He cheated on her, and that's why he's working with me. She's always angry with him. Every time he tries to have a conversation, he can just feel the seething anger from behind the scenes. But he hasn't cheated in 4 years. He's doing everything he thinks he's supposed to be doing. He doesn't think this is going to work out. It might be time to leave. And I go, what you have to do is you got to go home and you got to talk to your wife about the fact that you're running out of trust and belief that this relationship is going to work because you feel a lot of anger and it makes you upset. Because the problem is you stopped engaging in the behavior that damaged the relationship. You were out seeking success for yourself in that relationship. You stopped doing the thing that you thought was causing the problem. But the problem was caused by lack of communication and intimacy.
100%.
And none of that got fixed, right? He stopped cheating. He stopped going outside of his marriage. He stopped watching porn all the time, etc. But he never went to his wife and said, we're not communicating. I'm not getting what I need out of this relationship. And I'm afraid it's not going to last if I don't get more. It's not only about her. His part in it is not stepping forward and saying it. And the next day, it was such a cool message. The next day he said, you know what? I went home that night from work and I said to her, I don't know if we're going to make it because I'm scared. I feel nothing but anger towards you and it's making me get pushed aside. And it was the first real conversation they had in 4 years. And they're still together. It's like 7 months later, they're still together and they're working through their shit. That didn't solve the problems. But you got to hold hands and talk. And I mean, if people, Sophie, I love how when Sophie introed us, like we went through a bunch of cheating. It's like we had a bucket of cheating somewhere. Each one of those events that happened in our marriage and our relationships was devastating. Devastating. The first one we didn't talk. We didn't talk for almost a year. And then after that, when we got back together, the decision was we're going to hold hands through this and we're going to make it through. And people hated me at the beginning of our relationship because I hurt her multiple times and it was painful. And now people look at our relationship and use it as a model relationship. But it's taken a lot of work and a lot of layers to peel. And whoever's listening right now, you're either in the wrong relationship or you're in a relationship that can be fixed, but it's not going to be fixed without talking about it.
Right. Man.
That was powerful.
You guys want to drop some water on that mic? All right, let's shift gears here. Let's have some fun. So we're fascinated with just people's day-to-day lifestyles, like their habits, their rituals, systems. So what is, take us through like a day in the life of like what you guys do from like, waking up, the time, the mindset going into.
Are we going to do, is this going to be like a 3-hour podcast?
Midday and then like even
going
like.
to be exhausted, but we can try.
How do you guys wind down, shut it down, everything like that?
I'll try and give like a quicker version. Sure. We get up with the kids. The baby wakes up first, like around 6-ish. I feed her. We all kind of snuggle in bed. The older boys kind of wander in, or they're already in there from the night before, into our family bed. And we have a really nice slow morning. And we get to snuggle and talk, and it's really kind of dreamy and magical. It's the best way to start the day. And then we have breakfast, get the kids off to school, and then we start our work days. Adi works from home. He has we redid the garage, and that's his office now, so he works there, and then I work upstairs. And it's great. We both have our personal assistants that come to the house, and baby Noah's there with us, so it's nice as like a reminder to ground down, and I feel like that's kind of like the day-to-day meditation, is being able to connect to her and stay more mindful for both of us. And then kids get home around 2. I mean, throughout the day for our work life, it could be anything from recording podcasts for Ignited to our own separate work, his Ignited Recovery, my philosophy work. I have a superfood company called Philosophy.
Best superfoods on earth. Everybody, you have to go try them right now.
They're the best. We'll create a code for your people.
Cool. Awesome.
Yeah, and it's a lot of, we wear a lot of different hats. So even throughout my business, I'm creating all the content. I'm helping with all the social media. I'm both for Sophie.Jaffe Instagram, but also Philosophy Love and our blog. And I'm creating recipes. And it's a lot.
Yeah, man.
All while there's a baby there needing my attention and being fed and all of that. So there's that. And then the kids come home from school around 2 or 3. We're there kind of multitasking for a little bit as we wrap things up. And then we have a family dinner. We try and have a family dinner multiple times a week, definitely not every night, but we try and make a point of sitting down, eating dinner together. Our 8-year-old will help cook. He loves to cook. And really connecting. We try and put our phones away until
Be
they're
present.
in bed. Yeah, to really be present, because it's really not that much time. I mean, Adi usually wraps up with his assistant around 6. Sometimes he has a client after that. The kids are in bed, ready for bed at 7:30. It's not like a massive amount of time. So if we're present and we keep our phones away and we get to really play and connect, then it's magical.
Yeah.
We read to them. We have a whole routine, and then Adi and I have a little bit of time together. Sometimes that means that we have to record some last minute podcast intros. Sometimes that means we're connecting about philosophy because there's just not enough time in the day. But we try and like lounge. We watch something together. We
try to watch one episode.
Something
at night or
positive. Something positive.
Cool.
Because the negative stuff, the scary stuff, it just doesn't, it gives me bad dreams. And we love to laugh together. We love like Saturday Night Live, and we watch This Is Us. We love.
It's a good show.
It makes us cry in the best way. It makes you feel stuff, right? Because
Yeah.
they're radically transparent with each other. And then we're in bed. I think we're asleep by like 10. We have good rituals surrounding all that. We have like really good sleep. We're not fun people if we don't get enough sleep. So we're not the types to like stay up late working into the wee hours. Like we really treasure and honor sleep. And I think that's one of the biggest self-care practices that we have, is we really try and like be like lights out by 10, 10:30 at the
absolutely.
latest. No matter what, even if it's a weekend, we're like, we should probably go to bed. The kids are up no matter what at that time. And because we're full steam ahead and we accomplish so many things and we're back and forth between so many different hats that we wear throughout the day, it's really important that the sleep is there.
Yeah.
Sleep is a huge one for us. Exercise is big.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do both exercise almost every day. So that's part of it.
Yeah, I probably get, Sophie's better about this than I am, but I try to get at least 4 times a week that I like serious exercise, where I'm really exercising for like close to an hour each one of those times. And then for me, the morning is actually pretty important. I wake up first in the house, and my mind is really scattered, and it's taken me years to get to this place. But I found a journal I really like, 5-minute journal. I don't know if you guys have heard of it. So I use it daily, and I need my mindfulness in very small doses, and I never really found ways to do that well. And so when I wake up every morning, I now have this ritual. I drink a really, really big glass of water. I go downstairs and I do my 5-minute journal. I exercise a little bit, at least to make sure I got something, like even 10 minutes at the beginning of the day to just get my blood going. And that's when I'm allowed to start looking at my phone. Sometimes I make it the whole 40 minutes until 7 a.m. I now started using that lock screen kind of function on the new iOS. But at 7 o'clock or so, I go up and I start making food for everybody and all that. So it's taken me a really long time to figure out how to calm myself in the morning, because I was absolutely the guy who, before I went to sleep, I was on email, and the moment, like, this is not a joke, the moment my eyes would open, the phone would be right next to my bed, and I would go right to email, and I would read more and more stuff from like a Brenda Bouchard and Tim Ferriss and a lot of those guys who kind of said, give yourself some space.
Absolutely.
And what resonated for me, and maybe it will for other people, was if you pick up your phone and start looking at email, you're letting other people control how you start your day, because it's what they sent to you hours earlier from all over the world.
During their thought process of whatever they were thinking.
Yeah.
It's not your job to just respond the minute that I have every alert off on my phone. My ringer is never on. I just found more alerts that were like secretly lurking, and I was like, no, just nothing. You don't need, if you want something, go and find it. You want to go check your email, go check it.
Own your days,
Yeah.
and especially the beginning of them. We did an interview with Melissa Hartwig from Almost 30.
No, from Whole 30.
Whole 30. Sorry.
Yeah.
Wow. Too many 30s. From Whole 30, the diet program. And because a lot of people think to themselves, well, I can't be successful if I'm not on my game all the time. Melissa doesn't start answering her emails until 11. Awesome. She has a kid, and the morning is dedicated to her family. And I think we would argue that Whole 30 is successful.
Yeah.
And it's done okay. You are much better showing up as your best self to your day than starting it as soon as possible. I mean, hair and the tortoise, whatever story
Tortoise
you want.
and the hare.
There are so many stories you can listen to that tell you that, like, the first one out the gate is not necessarily the person who wins it take some time for yourself and start your day off.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Whew.
Yeah.
100%.
Love it, guys.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing.
Yeah,
your guys' day-to-day
we're
stuff.
huge
That's
on
great.
morning routines. I always say I got to program my mind to play offense, not defense. So love it.
And I think for me personally, I can speak for me. Everything's done with a lot of intention now.
Yeah.
Like I'm 34, I have 3 kids. I've been working really like hustler mode for so long. I'm still have a lot of that.
Mm-hmm.
But if I'm going to go into hustler mode, I'm going to be really supported so it doesn't make me anxious. So for me, it's like, if I'm going to have coffee, I'm not just going to have coffee. I'm going to add some superfoods to it. I'm going to, really make it, good healthy fats. I have a coconut butter that I add to it. Like the point of that is so that the caffeine isn't a huge up and a huge down. Like I don't want to crash in 2 hours.
Right.
I don't want that feeling of jitteriness. Like everything has intention. So if I'm going to have breakfast, it's going to be a really wholesome breakfast. If I'm going to have a snack or have an indulgence at night, I'm going to love it. And it's going to be with intention. Like I'm going to have this ice cream and eat the shit out of this ice cream and enjoy it because
She
it's
is
my
not
life.
messing around.
I do not mess around. And I think that that's the most important thing is that it's the energy that you come to it with and the thoughts that you're thinking as you're doing the thing, whatever it is. Like if you're sitting there playing with your son or your child, but your mind's wandering, you're not even present, go do that thing.
Yeah.
Like Adi will be doing that. He's totally not present. It's like a Saturday night. And I'm like, dude, just go work for an hour. I got all the kids, the dog,
Yeah.
everyone.
Yeah.
I've got it handled. I will handle the dishes. Like I've got it all. You go to your man cave and get that done. And he does. He comes back more present an hour later. And sometimes we just need to get the wiggles out,
Yeah,
go for
absolutely.
a run, go do what you need, but take care of yourself. Like Adi said, be responsible for your own day, your own time, your own energy, and be intentional about it.
Yeah.
Again, that's
Love
what's
that.
so nice about having support and a partner
Who wants your best.
who knows you at your best,
Yeah.
knows your demons and knows all the shadow stuff you got, and loves you and trusts you for all of that. Because in the past, and I know a lot of people listening right now, and maybe you guys have had this before, if she would have said that to me, I'd be defensive. I'd be like, "What the hell's wrong with you?
I'm totally
here.
being present."
I'd stop,
Yeah.
and I would get mad. And now I'm in this place where I go, "Hold on, she's saying this for a reason." Oh, I'm on my phone. I could keep checking my phone every 5 minutes. Take the time.
It's not lucky. It's not fair to him either. It's not fair to us, and it's not fair to him. We all know when you're present. Like we all know.
Yeah.
Anyone can call. Like I know when you're present. I barely know you. You know, and especially your person. You're like, come on, go do your thing.
So I think that's where the safety comes in. I tell in my line of work especially, people think they can fix themselves alone. It's possible. But it's a million times, not 5 times easier, a million times easier if you got a support network around you that trusts you and has your best interest. Not the people who are just pretending, not the people who are trying to get something from you. The people who know you, love you for all your faults, those are your people. Get them in on the game. Make sure that they understand what you're trying to work on and where your faults are and what your weaknesses are. And then make them part of the solution instead of trying to prove yourself that you can make it all on your own. It's so much better.
It's funny, you actually practiced radical transparency from the very beginning, even before I was in your life. Like when Adi was quote unquote sober, he had never had an alcohol problem. He was a drug addict. He was addicted to meth actually years and years ago before I knew him. And when he came, it was a court ordered, like mandatory, you must be sober and go to AA meetings, because that's all that our society has right now is that. So Adi's working really hard every single day to change that and offer this recovery course that offers a different way. And his book is called The Abstinence Myth, and it's a different way of
And there's
healing.
a free workship, and I'll give a code also.
Absolutely.
But part of that is like part of 5 years after he was sober and, went through the AA modality and all of that, he called his family. He's like, I don't really have a problem with alcohol. Like I never did. And he started asking those hard questions to himself. So he practiced radical transparency right then. He called his mom and dad in New York, who already were like worried, like Jewish, like worrying, like they pulled him out of jail and like the depths of hell. And, and he called them and was like, I'm going to have a drink tonight. I'm going to go out with my girlfriend. I'm going to have a glass of champagne at her birthday. And I just want to let you know. And like everyone's like on pins and needles, freaking out, nervous. And it was fine. And then a couple days later, a week later, he had another glass. And now 15, I wasn't even with you. So 20 years later,
18 years.
he moderately drinks, occasionally has more than 2, maybe it's 3, and that's it.
Yeah.
It's not spiraling into anything. He's not picking up meth on the corner. Like we're good. We're solid.
Is there meth? Do you guys know if that? No.
No, it's like I know a guy. No, but it's like he was practicing this from 20 years ago.
Yeah.
You can practice it in any part of your life. And now look where he is. If he wouldn't have practiced that and he was just living in fear and pretending, he wouldn't be living the rich life that he is now. That's dynamic, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Love that.
Yeah.
So with all your guys' like success right now, you guys have had a really kind of like you guys have a really great relationship. Is there, and a beautiful family.
Thank you.
Is there anything that's missing in your guys' life currently?
We're
Money.
trying to buy a house.
Money.
We're trying to buy a house. I mean, we're not missing money.
No,
Our
no,
life
no.
is great, but we want to buy a house.
Would you like to throw some bags of money at us?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's probably the one area we're still working on.
Yeah. We're renting a home. So
Who doesn't want to own?
yeah, it'd be great to own a house, have a backyard, a pool for our kids, like let them really grow up
All
in
our friends.
space. All our friends. You're all invited.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. I think that's the only area.
Okay.
And
Home base.
but even on that base, we're really good in our mindset around it. So
Yeah.
it'll
Gotcha.
all work out.
Love it.
Yeah.
And then the question I have for you guys too is, I feel like everybody has like a dark side, right? Like a shadow.
Yeah.
So if you guys don't mind me like asking, like,
Yeah.
what is like kind of like your guys' dark side and shadow? Like, what brings that out?
I mean, I think for me, it's always been around self-worth. My darkness is always around not feeling like I'm enough, no matter what I do, right? Like I'm an ex-con. I have 9 felonies on my record from 18 years ago, and now I have a PhD, and I'm helping people all over the world. And every morning when I wake up, if I don't do the work I need to do to get myself set up, I still think of myself as a failure. And it's like, so I have the rituals in place to link to gratitude, to get myself to that place. But if I don't do the work, and now I get to share it with Sophie's, I'll go on Dr. Oz, and the next day be like, oh, I didn't nail that. I'm like, what the fuck? Like, I'm not even supposed to be here. I'm supposed to be in prison.
Yeah.
Like, and so that's my place.
Man, that's interesting.
What's my thing?
I think you're more bullheaded than you let on to other people. I think other people think you're super flexible all the time.
Yeah.
You have your idea of the world, and you will go all in. And most of the time, I don't know if it's fortunate or unfortunate. Most of the time, it succeeds. It works for her. Every once in a while, she wants to go after something that is it's just not written. It's just not in her thing. And Sophie, she wants that bone. She's like, I'm going to get it. I don't care how. If I have to kill myself and 3 children in my family, I'm going to go get it.
I could see that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Love it.
Taurus vibes.
Yeah.
Adi, Sophie, we're coming towards an end of the show. This has been an amazing interview. Once again, you guys have delivered a lot of great stuff.
Thank you.
You've answered a lot of my questions that I personally wanted answered. I came up with a lot of these interview questions, not Chris.
This guy's lying.
But I want to just take a moment to acknowledge you guys and just say thank you very much again for spending time with us, carving time out of your busy schedule, for just delivering all this great stuff, and just for everything that you guys are both doing to change the world. I mean, Adi, it's an amazing story, man. I mean,
incredible.
Holy shit. I'm speechless with that. So keep going. Sophie, everything that you're doing with your businesses, inspiring other people with their relationships, other moms, leading by example. I just want to acknowledge you guys with that.
Yeah,
Thank you so
and I'll
much.
just piggyback. I mean, thanks so much for just like the transparency and the vulnerability. I mean, that's huge.
Gotta
Especially
bring
coming
it.
on the podcast, it's going to help so many people
Yeah.
out when they listen to this. So thank you guys so much.
Oh, I'm
Yeah,
so
thank you
glad.
guys.
So my last question is, what does it mean for you guys to live a dynamic lifestyle?
I think Sophie and I are up for anything, any challenge, any change,
Adventure.
anything that we believe can create excitement in our life. And so that's to us a dynamic. Like we don't know what's going to be here 10 years from now, and we're happy with that. We're kind of, I think that makes both of us excited that we haven't discovered it quite yet, but it's going to be amazing.
We haven't created it yet.
Yeah, love it. Awesome. So where can our listeners follow you guys and all everything that you guys are doing?
Well, this would really help. Sophie can use a couple of followers.
No. Ignited podcast, IGNTD for our podcast together. And then I'm Sophie.Jaffe on Instagram.
And Philosophy Love.
And Philosophy Love for our business account. And then thephilosophy.com for all of my superfood powders, our blog, recipes.
Yeah, and if anybody, you talked about the coffee thing, if anybody's like a Bulletproof fan, you move into these kinds of superfoods in your coconut butters, and it's an entirely different
in your
world. So I just got to
coffee.
say that.
Yeah.
I am Dr. Adi Jaffe on almost everything. So at Dr. Adi Jaffe on almost everything. And ignited.com is the website that Sophie and I share on the podcast and all the other stuff that we do.
Awesome, guys. So we'll have that linked up in the show notes. Once again, Adi, Sophie, thank you guys so much. Truly appreciate it.
Thank you guys.
Until next time, guys.
Hey guys, thanks so much for watching this podcast video. If you guys are interested in watching and listening to more of our podcasts, make sure to click the link in the description box below. We have a ton of awesome podcasts. I mean, we're up to like 130 right now. We're giving one out every single week, and we're actually bringing on some of the big guests out there, and everything is really centered around lifestyle habits, systems, overcoming adversity, how someone got from point A to point B, and some of the rituals and lessons learned throughout that entire journey. So you guys will gain a lot of value from these podcasts, whether it's through audio or here on YouTube, okay? So make sure to check out the link in the description box, and we'll see you guys in the next episode.